Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you are lucky enough to be doing it to. I'm Bushka Blitz, and this is a Patreon-sponsored post. If you haven't looked at Patreon, I've just done a couple of Patreon-only videos this week. They're behind the password-protected section of the bushkablitz.com website, and it's to remedy something that's been missing on channel for a long time, this video. Many people have asked me for quite some time now to do a how to TD video. There's a how to medium video out there that's had 50,000 odd views or something massive like that. There's a how to heavy video that's had quite a few as well. And people talk about the TD thing, and I always get put off with it because there is such a huge variety when it comes to TDs. But there's some very specific things that are TD centric. So I'm going to approach it in almost like a two-pronged attack. First of all, we're going to talk about the big alpha guns, and I've been playing a lot of those lately. The 183, for instance. I'm always a big fan of the T110E4, and I love running the SU152. And there's some key things which those tanks have in common. Anytime you have high alpha, you generally have horrific gun handling, and by that I mean big aim times, very big aim times, in fact. Very big dispersion rates and fairly solid bloom on dispersion. And that's the amount of bloom you can see there moving about the place. So what you want to be doing when you're running a high alpha gun, you either want to be one of two things, especially when it's a non-turreted TD, like the SU152. And you can see the gun handling there is horrific. That's hit a rock that was just left of the reticle. You want to either be firing at range where you're in cover, and they can't get to you because you need the reticle to be absolutely still to get a shot to hit, or you want to be absolutely dead set on top of them so that you're literally just snapshotting on a traverse. And this game features a little bit of both, and you can see how I've set up behind a bush. Now, camo is exceptionally important when you're in a standoff with a TD like this. Most of your big alpha TDs do not have terrifically strong armor profiles, and they certainly don't have super quick retreat avenues open to them. They don't have 25 kilometers an hour in reverse kind of thing. So when you're firing this, it pays to get used to doing almost like a reverse waggle, especially with some of the bigger Russian TDs that have big gun mantlets, because you can catch shots on your gun mantlets and they won't pen. This is why I really stood away from doing a how to TD video, because there's such a huge range of different TDs. Now you can see I'm too close to that louver there. I did a video yesterday on concealment, and in that you can see you have to be far enough away so that the tanks are only a silhouette, and then you won't actually get spotted. Now I'm using HE, high caliber guns like 150mm, 120s to a lesser extent. 120mm are generally not the big derp guns of TDs. You can run a 120 on the T95, for instance. You run a lot of guns like that on the Tortoise. The SU-122-54 is another fast-firing weapon, and the Object 263. They're all better able to produce damage per minute in accurate form. But as you can see here, when you've got a gun like this, you're simply looking for it to connect to the target, and it won't hit. It will troll you. As you've seen through this game, it has trolled me tremendously. However, what it's also done, as they've approached, is laid out some absolutely monumental shots. Now you might be wondering what the SU-100 M1 was doing at the start. He actually had no ammunition. He told us at the start of the game he had no ammo. So that was why he was just doodling about the place, getting killed. So now we're down to a 2-on-1. I've retained my hit points because I've basically done the vampire. Now, doing the vampire is something you have to do at times as a TD. You have to use the hit points of your team to get spots and then hit the targets. And if you can hit them effectively, you can generally save your team from getting pushed up on. And one of the reasons that the SU-152 and tanks like the Jagdpanzer 100 and the FV-215B183 are so successful in these issues is because, as you saw there was an IS-6 on my right and an IS-3 and all these other big heavy tanks, but they knew there was a big TD there and they did not want to move up and take that fire. Now, this tank will do 640 alpha with its AP rounds, but with its HE, it'll do a lot more. Now, we switched to heat there. The penetration values of these bigger TDs are generally pretty poor. As you get to Tier X, though, they become exceptionally good. And I can see down there, I'm going to switch to HE. Now, this is one of the reasons why you run this tank. I'm looking for a good roll, so I don't have to go down and kill him, but I just get an average roll or a slightly below average alpha roll. 960 alpha on the 152M is the standard roll with your high explosive. And we're looking here for one as he comes up, and we get a great shot on him again. Now, another thing with these non-turreted TDs, it's a lot harder to set up shots, and you really want to get good at doing this. Now, I don't know exactly how to explain this because it's just something you get used to doing as you play a non-turreted TD, but I'm going to have a crack at it anyway. It's about controlling your traverse with your right hand, not with your controller on your left. You're controlling your traverse with your right hand because I'm actually zoomed in. Now, see the tank on the left, it's pointing away. I've stopped moving with my left hand. I am letting the reticle snap back by using my right hand. Now I'm going to go through it one more time because this is the key for snapshotting with these kind of tanks. And this is a really interesting thing that I realized when I was making this video that people don't really talk about. The left hand is going to set me up for a traverse, almost like a side scrape on this obstacle, and that's great. My right hand is where I move the gun around and I aim. Because you're a non-turreted TD, if you move the gun around far enough left to right, it will turn the tracks while you're in sniper mode. So you take your hands off the left-hand control stick, you put it on the target you want it to hit, and then you get your left hand onto your left fire button, and as you hold it down and as it hits, as the target reticle and the point in the middle of the screen slam together, you release the left fire control button and boom, it'll fly. At no point in time was I using my left hand to steer the tank there. It's like a snapshot. It's an absolute snapshot. And it's perfect for big heavy tanks like the Jagdpanzer 100, the E3, the Object 704, the ISU 152, the Tortoise, all these guys that have no turrets and are fairly slow in terms of traverse, or reasonably quick, but they're not very, very fast. I use this all the time, and you can pull off fantastic shots with it because you basically forget all about guiding the tank or driving the tank or turning the tank. You just aim the gun where you want it to go, and when the reticle meets the actual point of the weapon, you release the trigger and you'll hit some amazing snapshots that you really won't believe you'll hit with weapons of this high dispersion and an aim time. So anyway, we're now going to do the same thing. You see, I did the same thing there, but I didn't have the gun depression. Again, you get really used to that. And it's important that you do because it makes non-turreted TDs work. And most people will do that naturally. But if you're just starting to drive these things and you're wondering how it works, that's the way you've got to get used to targeting. The other reason you really want to do it like that is because when you're moving the tank, there is an extra bloom on the actual dispersion. If you're moving the tank from side to side and backwards and forwards, getting it to stop as quickly as possible should be the key, because as soon as the tank stops, the gun aim time will start quicker. If you move the tank with your left hand, then the bloom's going to be bigger. You want it to be as small as possible. So letting it snap like that helps that happen. Second game here, same map, same side of the map with a turreted TD, and this is the T110E4. Now, the reason turreted TDs with big alphas, and we're talking about big alphas here, guys, I will be doing another review where I get a look at tanks like SU-12254s and maybe the Tort and the like. But the reason that tanks with big alphas work so well as turreted TDs, for instance, the T30 is brilliant at it. It's quite simple. You would have seen it was quite hard with that SU-152 to set shots up. You would have had to really expose yourself. With this tank, That's not nearly as difficult because you can angle the tank out and then just move backwards and forwards without actually moving the turret. So you can set the shot up to be a lot cleaner with a lot less of a bloom on the target because you're basically ready to go and waiting for them, and you don't have to keep moving around. You can actually angle your armor profile at the same time. Now the T110E4 is a little bit of an unsung hero. It's very mobile for a massive tank. It's got 375mm of APCR pen. As you can see, we absolutely drill through the corner of that T110E5, the heavy counterpart. The FV215B there. Now that's a turreted TD, but it's got a long nose on the front of it. And what that means is you've got to put the nose out to actually see. Now that's a big lesson for any IS-7 drivers. Never go out sideways in an IS-7 to a Tier X TD. They've all got 150mm guns for the most part. And when you go out sideways to a 150mm gun with an IS-7's ammo rack, you're asking for trouble. Now again, I'm setting my shots up just like with the ISU-152, but because you're in a TD that has a turret, you're able to set them up a lot cleaner. Now I'm going to move ahead of him because I'm expecting him to come down off, and he does. Now I want to just stop there and go through one little section there again. Now you're probably wondering, why would you drive a non-turreted TD if you can drive a turreted TD? Because they all have the same kind of guns. The turreted TDs generally have a lot worse camo. They really do. So the SU-152 is excellent for camouflage, and you saw that, how often I was hiding behind the greens and the bushes and that, and they were moving around. It's got a lot more traverse as well. And they also tend to have a slightly faster rate of fire, the non-turreted versions, and a little better gun handling. But they don't have the ability to set shots up the way that the turreted TDs can. Especially tanks like the T110E4. The 183, as you're going to see in this area here, has to push out because he's got a massive rear mounted turret, which is a big negative. Now he gets a penalty for that because his gun is ridiculously strong if it's able to hit. He has the biggest alpha in the entire game and has paper armor to pay for it. And if you don't drive that carefully, as you saw in my recent 183 review, you expose yourself to go out and get a shot. I don't have that issue. The 110E4 is actually quite compact for what it is. And you can see the beautiful thing about it is the ability to set up the shot. Now, if you looked at the SU-152 before, and I was talking to you about the gun snapping back and how there's a bloom on the reticle, I turn the turret, I pre-turn the turret to where I want it to go because I have the benefit of a turret. So I'm looking at where I want to go, and then I just drive the tank straight forward. Now, there is a penalty to dispersion, as in the accuracy of the gun, if the turret is turning. And look at the size of that reticle as I approach a target. If that was a turning SU-152, it would be massive. It would be as big as the screen. But look at this. I just roll out with the gun already pre-turned. All I have to do is release the button, and it goes straight through his drive wheel for nearly 700 damage. And that's the joy of driving a TD that has a turret. You can set your shots up easily. And even though your gun handling is generally slightly inferior to the tanks that don't have a turret, there is a huge benefit to not getting any bloom or dispersion on a traverse. So, look, I just love this tank, and I chose it particularly because I love it. Why shouldn't you drive things you love? The T30 is the same. I love that too. You can see I'm just going out again and again. Slide angle with my effective armor profile, maximized if anyone's on my right. He's not looking at me, so he's not going to go through my drive wheel. And I'm not worried on my left. There's a guy from EHR and Rich there. EHR are a very good clan as well. They've got some very good players. So pretty confident here, and this was when I saw our team, I knew we were a very good chance of getting a winner. That 183 again, you have to go out in a 183, and we've angled up and we bounce him. You can't really do that as simply as this in a non. Look at me set the shot up. I let him drive into the shot. huge part of this game, which can be all across it, like mediums, lights, heavies, TDs. Let tanks drive into the shot. It's all well and good being able to whip a shot off and snapshot and everything, and it sounds great and it looks great. But if you just put the target 20 meters in front of them and let them drive into it and release the button as they get there, you'll hit more shots than you should be doing it. Now, I haven't gone into specifics with regard to camouflage and sidescraping and everything, because to be quite honest, I've done an absolute monstrously large amount of gameplay resource videos. Like that, if you go up to bushkablitz.com, look in the game improvement section. Please go to bushkablitz.com. That's my webpage. In the game improvement section, there are camo, viewing, spotting, side scraping, how to brawl with your mediums. There's 3 on that. Isolating in a medium, how not to explode. That's a 5-part series. How to heavy, how to medium, positions of strength. There's just so many different videos that I put up there that cover off on all that stuff already. This is more about the nitty-gritty of turreted and non-turreted, and I'm not even able to go completely into depth on those things. And I want to do now another TD video with regard to tanks that have a different kind of gun, different kind of weapon, like a YAG type or a Tortoise or a SU-122, any of those kind of things. And there's nations tend to have a specific style of play, like the Russian TDs, for instance. In the first Russian TD line, have the famous BL-10 gun, and that works wonders. You know, you've got that from the SU-152 onwards. You have these huge, big alpha damage guns. The ISU-152, the Object 704, and the Object 268 all fit that bill. The British tanks are a bit funny in that the 183, the Death Star, the FV215B183, is enormous and has the biggest alpha in the game. But up until that point, the AT-15, the AT-8, the Tortoise, I mean, that's crazy good. That when it came out, unnerved, was just godly. And the speed of that gun and the accuracy of that gun, the traverse of that gun and the gun depression, and the fact that it had 400 alpha, not like any of the other TDs at Tier 9, that 640 alpha gun that like the T95 has on the 150. There's like a steady style of play you get through those TDs, and they're so unique. Like the Americans, for instance, on the first TD line, the T95, the T28, the T110E3 are all tremendously strong, really, really strong armor profiles with big alpha, but they don't have a whole lot of mobility, and they change that and vary that through those tanks. And some of these tank destroyers have changed a lot with the advent of a lot more same tier matchmaking. The T28, for instance, now that it sees a lot more Tier 8 and a lot less Tier 9 and 10, is an easier gun to drive. You can actually bounce some shots in that thing. And likewise, some of the Russian tanks. So I didn't want to get too bogged down in that. And there will be more videos coming, and it'll be a lot more nuanced than the how to medium and the how to heavy guide, which were quite straightforward by comparison. Anyway, I'm Bushka on Blitz. Make sure to pop along to bushkablitz.com. If you've already considered sponsoring the channel, please do. It'd be great fun to see more people in the Telegram chat there. We've got a live chat with 73 people in it now, me being one of them. And we do have a bit of a natter, and it's a good giggle, and they're a great bunch of guys. So as long as you don't be a wanker, you're welcome to come along there once you're a sponsor of the channel. We did do a Dead Rail map video and a Himmelsdorf video for Patreon only. That's up on the bushkablitz.com as well. Once you're a patron, you get the password for that kind of thing. Guys, thanks so much for sticking around, for listening to me rattle on, and for being passionate about the game that I'm very passionate about. You're wonderful human beings, and I hope you're all having a great time, a great week, and a great year. Stay safe on the battlefield. Until next time, bye for now.